If everyone can take their seats, I think we're about ready to get started. Good evening and welcome to the 2024 Candidates Night. On behalf of myself, Tim Oskey, and my lovely assistant, Lori Giannini, we would like to say thank you for being here. This Candidates Night will feature Angels Camp City Council candidates, Bret Harte Union High School District candidates, Mark Twain Union Elementary School districts, and then we'll talk also about the county elections. We'll hear from them as well. We just wanted to represent and talk about some of the folks behind the scenes. We have ACBA members, Angels Camp Business Association members, Jesse Rena Gibbs, Tammy Dillashaw, Kathy Russell, Debbie Ponte, Marilyn and Greg Smith. Also a shout out to Bret Harte High School Theater Program led by David Dugan. We have students who are working behind the scenes with setup and staging, and we're also recording this event, and it'll be available on YouTube under the Bret Harte Candidates Night. Now I'll have Lori introduce you.
At this time, I have the pleasure of introducing one of our fine students from Bret Harte High School, and Jefferson Porras is going to lead us in the pledge. Jefferson?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
This event is hosted by the Angels Camp Business Association and Destination Angels Camp. The event is an educational opportunity to meet and learn from candidates and is not an endorsement of any candidate or measure. And who is the Angels Camp Business Association? Who is Destination Angels Camp? Tim will answer.
Thanks, Lori. It is important to kind of point out the differences between these two organizations. Because we are housed in the same building, a lot of confusion comes from that. And so we wanted to just read who we are and what we do. Destination Angels Camp is a not-for-profit private economic development service working to recruit and support business growth and opportunity in Angels Camp. DAC, or Destination Angels Camp, is supported by financial and in-kind contributions from local businesses, and its services are available to anyone who wants to start to grow their business.
The Angels Camp Business Association is a not-for-profit membership organization working to create a vibrant and healthy environment by hosting community events and business networking within our established business community. ACBA, the Angels Camp Business Association, is supported by annual membership fees from local businesses and event sponsorship. Together, these organizations work in collaboration with each other. DAC brings new business to Angels Camp, and once a business is open, ACBA encourages businesses to join their membership and become involved in the community. So the voting process in Calaveras County, we are so fortunate to have a stellar team at our county clerk recorder's office, and the leader is here, our clerk recorder for Calaveras County, Rebecca Turner.
I am not as tall as them. Hi, everyone. Did I mess it up already? Yep, you're good. Okay. I'm Rebecca Turner, the County Clerk Recorder and Registrar of Voters. I will be quick. I was told I had 2 minutes, and I'm not huge on public speaking anyhow, so that's perfect. Our vote centers are now open. We've actually had 250 people vote in person already, which means my office is really busy. Valley Springs opens next Saturday. Bret Hart Theater, the voting site is here, opens the following Saturday, November 2nd, along with a voting site in Malcolmy Hill, if anyone's here that's interested. And then we have a site in Copperopolis. Copperopolis is actually an assisted drop box. So they don't do voter registration at that site, and they don't issue ballots. But for the people who would like to return their ballot in person and scan their ballot, you can bring your already voted vote by mail in and scan it through the scanner so that you know it's counted. We get a lot of questions about how do I know my vote counted? And the best thing you can do is you could go onto our website yourself and check your voter registration. You can also check on there to see if your ballot has been counted. So we hand out these little cool QR codes that send you a direct link to our website, and that's where you can check. So if you want to grab one on the way out, or if you know anyone who's questioning the process and might want to look into it, grab it for them. We have received 25% of the vote by mail's ballots back already. So we're expecting a really high turnout election this year. That's 8,000 ballots. It's pretty crazy. And then, what else do I got? New this election. I think a lot of people are gonna wanna know the results of the election immediately. And sometimes we get a lot of questions, well, why is it taking so long to finalize everything? The end process takes up quite a bit of time. So the machines count the ballots, then we do an audit to make sure everything counted properly, the number of signatures we verified matches the total number of ballots in the end. We do a manual hand count to make sure how the machine counted is truly the same as what a human would count. And we go through and audit everything. However, this election, there's a new law. We may not certify the election results until December 3rd. We can't do it any sooner and we can't do it any later. So the final election results will be certified on December 3rd. Right? Usually Calaveras County is done a lot quicker than the rest of the counties, but they don't want us little counties coming out before everybody else. So we will post results as it goes. We just won't be able to call on final official results until that date. We're here if you guys have any questions. If you hear something that doesn't sound right to you or gives you concern about the voting process, call us or email us, ask questions. We are more than happy to share how the process works. Everything is open and publicly available for you to watch. Anytime we're working or doing something, you are welcome to come watch and see what we're doing. So volunteer, get involved. If you have any questions, just ask us. And that's all I've got. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rebecca.
All right, so we are going in alphabetical order, and so we will be starting with the City Council. So if we can have come to the platform, Mike Schmidt, Mike Fish, Mary Kelly, Caroline Shirato, and then Bob Holston will be reading a statement for Scott Beal. Scott Beal is unable to participate as he is traveling abroad, but has submitted a statement to share, which will be read by Bob Holston. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. As I said, my name is Bob Holston, and I'm presenting Scott's statement since he's gone out of the country. And this is the message he would like to leave with you tonight. My wife and I moved our family to Angels Camp in 2005, and all three of our children graduated from Mark Twain and Bret Hart. As a father, I was fortunate to be able to coach youth sports and watch our kids flourish. Angels Camp is a great place to raise a family, evidence that the city is doing a lot of things right. I am proud to have served our community on numerous committees, the City Council, and as mayor of Angels Camp. As a retired business owner, I have the time and expertise to help form creative yet common sense solutions in helping guide our city forward. Experienced with the city government, I understand the challenges we face. Most important of these, the City Council needs to support the implementation of the new pavement management system, ensuring adequate staffing to do the job. They also need to encourage aggressive pursuit of a secondary water source and/or more water storage. And finally, to support the business community by easing restrictions and supporting workforce housing. A strong business community can increase our tax revenues without raising taxes. And he says, please vote for me so that we may look forward to an intelligent and productive future. And I would just like to say that Scott and Karen have been great friends of ours for a long time. We've been able to watch them raise their children, and they have done a fantastic job. And of course, you know, Scott has been instrumental in the activities of our community for a long time. And so I would recommend that, that he be added to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how this evening is going to go, because these guys are probably up there wondering, what am I doing? I wish I had a good joke for you guys to lighten the mood, but I don't. So we're going to have each candidate, and we set them up in alphabetical order. We're going to have each candidate begin by sharing a 2-minute introduction of themselves and why they're running for this position. Then we're going to ask a series of questions. We're going to start with Mr. Tremente and move down the table for the first question. Second question, we'll start with Mr. Fish, and then we'll just kind of progress that way. So with no further ado, I think we will let Mr. Tremente start with his 2-minute introduction.
So how do we know, is there a timer?
Yeah, good question. Sorry about that. That's our folks down here in front of us. They will hold up like a little 30-second sign, not so little, and then a stop, right? So I don't think we have the ability to shut your mic off, but I'll zip you.
Jeremy Leonard is here, so I'm just going to have him rope you.
Well,
The table is yours.
thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Cimeni. I have 46 years of public education. I started my career as a teacher at Columbia Elementary School. Once I received my admin credential, I went to Calaveras Unified, and I was a site administrator at Railroad Flat, Calaveras High School, and San Andreas Elementary. After that, I spent 10 years as a superintendent of the Vallecito Union School District, and the last 16 years of my career was here at Bret Hart as a superintendent of the Bret Hart Union High School District. One of the things that we had to deal with was a Great Recession. Back when we had that Great Recession, we had a $12 million budget, and that budget was cut to $9 million. We all worked hard to keep the cuts away from students and programs. And then in 2008, the voters approved an $18 million bond, and through matching funds, we were able to complete over $20 million worth of projects on this campus. During all those projects, I served as a construction manager, so that, you know, I could personally have my hands on the projects as we move those projects forward. And then finally, the last thing that I dealt with was the COVID pandemic, and I helped our district and staff and students navigate that. In February of 2023, Amanda Follendorf asked if I could serve as a planning commissioner on the Calaveras County Planning Commission. I said yes, and I served on that planning commission until October of 23, when an opening on the city council became available. That was something I always wanted to do, is be on the city council, but I thought as a district superintendent it may be a conflict. So in October of 2023, I was appointed, and I have been sitting in that position for a year. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with the staff and the community, helping helping our city move forward. So, and thank you. I have many years of experience working with budget, dealing with personnel issues, and most importantly, navigating the state mandates. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next up, we'll hear from Mike Fish.
Hi, my name is Mike Fish, and I was born and raised here. I have a lot of background on construction. I've worked for Hydrox when it was here, and then when Stan Martincello closed down, I went to work for a pipeline company doing petroleum and natural gas pipeline throughout the U.S. And so I spent a lot of time in the operating engineers doing that. I recently retired from that, but I've done a lot of jobs with pipeline, doing multi-million-dollar jobs to multi-billion-dollar jobs. I worked for him as a foreman, then I worked my way up to a superintendent for him. And I've done a lot of budgeting, a lot of accounting, a lot of things in the forms of that. So construction is really my design, and where it comes into is where I had to do all the budgeting and everything else with that. So I just really like to see in this city, I'd like to see the budgeting done better and the construction done that needs to be done to facilitate the buildings that need to be done. When you want to build in here, you got to have your infrastructure first. So that's where I'm really good at it. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Mary Kelly.
Hi, I'm Mary Kelly. Hi. I'm hoping to be elected to City Council because I've lived in Calaveras County for over 30 years. And as a homeowner and as a parent, I'd like Angels Camp to remain a great place to live and raise a family. I believe the city is making progress in preserving its unique character. I worked in local government for the past 20 plus years, retiring from the City of Angels as city administrator in 2018. For 12 years, I served as a city clerk and Angels Camp city treasurer. My past experience working with local business owners, the state officials, the board of supervisors, and our residents will be a positive match. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Caroline Sherrod.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to ACPA and DAC for putting this event together and for everyone coming tonight out of your busy schedules to learn more about all of your local candidates. My name is Caroline Sherrod. My husband and I have owned and operated a small business in the city for the past 24 years. We've raised our 2 boys here, and my youngest is actually a senior here at Bret Harte High. He's out on the soccer field. We do love living here. It is such a unique and amazing place to raise a family. I work from home for a national nonprofit that focuses on protecting U.S. critical infrastructure and the American people through connecting the public and private sectors. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I trained as an electrician and I repaired submarines in the Mediterranean. Fun fact. I have served on the Angels Camp Veterans Memorial District for the past 7 years, which I find absolutely wonderful for veterans serving veterans. I have worked in nonprofits for the past 20 years, which means careful budgeting, creative solutions, and networking to bring in what we need to drive the mission of the organization. These skills carry over into my work as a council member. Additionally, I bring awareness and access that I have in my day job for cyber and physical security to the city and our partnering agencies, as well as these schools. It's been an honor to serve on the city council for the past 3.5 years. We may not have much say about what happens in our federal or state level government, but we do have a say in what impacts our day-to-day lives, which is why I have chosen to run again. Thank you.
We have a series of 5 questions to ask, and we'll take turns with the candidates. And so we'll get started with the first one. Sir?
And the winner is.
Oh, perfect. All right, we're going to start with you, Mr. Tremente. As a city council member, you set the tone for the staff and the community. What leadership skills and experience would you bring to the table? What type of community outreach do you think should be taking place in the city, and how would you accomplish this?
For 26 years, I was a school superintendent dealing with all of the issues and problems and the joys that come with that job. I'm very familiar with working with parents and students and staff. I believe it's important to compromise. One of the things I think that we need to do better in the city is our outreach and communication. When I first became a city council member, I asked the council and the staff to put something in our water bill regarding an update on the park, and that was accomplished. And I think we need to involve more people. We need to become more inclusive and not exclusive. Do we do it through town hall meetings? Do we do it through a monthly article in a newspaper, newsletters? But I think we need, if we're going to move forward in a positive direction, we need to strive to listen to as many people as we can prior to making a decision. So I think, our front line is our staff who provides the council with information, but it's also important for a council member to do their own research and come to some conclusion. But then during a meeting, it's very important to listen to one another and understand each other's point of view and decide the best direction to move our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Same question, Mr. Fish. I'll repeat it so that we'll repeat the question each time so you guys don't have to remember it all the way down the line. So, as a city council member, you set the tone for the staff and the community. What leadership skills and experience would you bring to the table? What type of community outreach do you think should be taking place in the city, and how would you accomplish this?
What I can bring to it is the general engineering contracting skills that I have. Whether it goes from water to sewer to any of that, to communications, lines, and everything. To bring something to the community, that's where people have to talk to the community and be with the community to talk to the people. You have to see the people and talk to them. You got to know what they want. And from what I've seen in the last couple of years, it's been really quiet. Even at the city council meetings, it's unfortunate because a lot of people need to go there. And the way to reach the people, I don't know how to actually get people to go to the meetings and to reach them. But I think being involved with the community is one thing. But to get people to go to the meetings is another. Community outreach, probably the best way to do that is to be with the people and listen to the people and hear them. And when you bring that back to the city council, that's when you can be the voice for the people. And that's what I really think needs to happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Fish. Same question to you, Mary Kelly. As a city council member, you set the tone for the staff and the community. What leadership skills and experience would you bring to the table? What type of community outreach do you think should be taking place in the city, and how would you accomplish this?
Wow, okay. I've worked for the city for 12 years, about 12 years, and I have a unique perspective of what's within the city and what's without. I want our city to be vibrant and full of energy by working with what we have. And I'm sorry. Getting a little bit off subject here, we have an awesome park that is taking new shape and moving forward. And we have one of the most celebrated museums in the state. We are fortunate to have agencies like Destinations Angels Camp and Angels Camp Business Association who are dedicated to bringing time and energy to events within the city. And I think I've gone off subject because I don't think I really understood the question that much, but DAC and APA brings so many events to the city, like the Farmers Market, Mark Twain Wild West Fest, the annual Christmas Parade, and so much more. So I think I misunderstood the question, but go ahead, that's what I've got. I'm sorry.
Caroline, as a city council member, you set the tone for the staff and the community. What leadership skills and experience would you bring to the table? What type of community outreach do you think should be taking place in the city, and how would you accomplish this?
So I too have a background in school administration. I worked for the Sierra Waldorf School for 10 years, working with parents and faculty and students alike. And then in the job I am now with, we have 75 presidents that run local chapters. And so it's really about that clear communication and how you do it. And I find that it takes like 3 different types of communication to finally get to somebody. And so one of the things that we decided to do at the city council level when I first came on is that we had a bigger social media presence, which did help and bolster the amount of people who were looking at what the city was doing and updates on projects and such. We did launch a newsletter that went out to about 150 people via email, and then of course there's the notifications in your billing, but it's still not enough. There's still not enough communication going out to folks so that they understand where we're at with things and what's happening in the city, and so that could be improved. I do feel like we need to lean more into our business organizations in the city to help with communication. That's another avenue that we should explore more. As far as leadership with the staff and setting the tone, we absolutely need to take care of our staff, and that's in several different ways. First is being competitive in our market, making sure that they're getting competitive pay and we're not losing good staff members to other local agencies. Secondly, looking at making sure they have the right tools for the jobs and the most updated tools. And so we at council just approved a huge software upgrade for our financial system, which is going to streamline and make their jobs so much easier. And yes, it did cost a little bit more money, but in the long run, over 3 years, it's going to pan out, it's going to be a neutral. So just looking at things like that, when the police department comes to us and says, hey, we really need you to take a look at this software, listening to them and understanding why they need that. Is it going to be effective? And is the money worth spending? And then at the end, you can make a really educated decision. And so those are the 3 components of that answer.
Thank you. So for question number 2, we're going to start with Mr. Fish. Question number 2 is, what would you do to stabilize water and sewer rates?
That's a good question. Stabilize water rates. Water. I was thinking about that here not too long ago, and it's too bad you couldn't run from the discharge of the power plant down there and put a catch basin there to reuse that water back up to the water treatment plant. I know the city is planning on redoing their water line, but that would be a good backup water line to take from the creek back up to the water treatment plant. That would reduce, you know, you'd have to put a piece of pipe into there to run it back up towards the Great Road, but you could do that in a very easy way. And then once that's done, that would reduce the cost of your water on top of that, because you're reusing your water twice. So I don't know what the permitting would be on that for the creek or whatever, but you know, it's something to honestly think about. I don't know how else you could really do that. That's a good question. But that's what I would try to reuse the water from the creek back up to the water treatment plant. That's what would be the way to do that, and I think that would reduce. I really think that would reduce the water rates. That's all I got. Thanks.
Mary, what would you do to stabilize water and sewer rates?
To do what?
What would you do to stabilize water and sewer rates?
Well, that's a tough question. I know there's a water study, water rate study in the works right now. But over all these years, working with the city, you can't stabilize them. It doesn't, there are so many, you try all the time. You get different council members, you get different city administrators. Everything that happens is the water is the #1 problem for the city. I don't know how you would stabilize it. To make it short and simple, I don't know how you would say it's a headache for any city, but that's, you know, I'm just saying, I maybe with the water rate studies, that's how you understand it, but does it ever stabilize? No, it does not, because costs keep going up and the state raises things and that's all I can say right now. That's all I know, really. Sorry.
Thank you. Caroline, what would you do to stabilize water and sewer rates?
So there's a couple of ways to look at this. We have 1,700 customers in Angels Camp. So it's a small group to bear the burden of a water system. So as Scott B. Hill had mentioned in his 3 minutes, is adding more development. And so the more hookups you have, the more you can share the cost of a water system. Other developments too, such as businesses and growing the businesses and having new developments. There's also if I can read my own notes. During this water study, one of the things we had to look at was CIP projects, which is capital improvement projects, which is water and wastewater, and we look at all of the kinds of projects that have to be done. And so when we first were presented this, unfortunately, we were looking at a higher rate of water and wastewater that we're going to have to pass on to our city residents. And so in asking questions about what is realistic about the CIP that we can actually do in the next 5 years, we were able to kind of bring that back down to a digestible amount that we actually can accomplish in that 5 years and not charge you for projects that we will not be able to get to. So that is something we did look at in the last few weeks. That was a request that I made, is could I have another CIP project presentation so that we can dial it back, look at what we can actually do, and then that's what we can pass on to the ratepayers, which is great because it's going to keep your bills much lower. So that's one of the 2 ways that I can see us reducing the water and wastewater.
Thank you. Michael, what would you do to stabilize water and sewer rates?
I think Caroline summed it up. You know, if we can grow our population in a reasonable and positive way, we can spread the cost of doing business. One of the things that we just allocated was almost $10 million worth of capital improvement projects. And one of those projects is automatic meter readers. And what that's going to allow us to do is to free up staff that is physically reading meters and not allowing them to focus on other projects that are required in the city. One of the things that we have talked about, and if you've listened to the conversations over the Prop 218, that's the official name of the rate study, there's been a lot of discussion about our current rates and how much our current rates will generate, and would it generate enough for the about $10 million worth of projects that are still on the books. And you know, there are some arguments that it could. So, you know, as we go down the road, you know, we have to look at, you know, what's an effective and efficient cost of living, but also be mindful and respectful of the citizens who are going to bear the brunt of that cost. So again, you know, I believe that, and I'm not sure growth is going to be a question, and you're not holding up 30 seconds yet, but I believe we need to form a task force composed of DAC and APCA and business folks and community members to talk about what's their vision of our city in the next 5 or 10 years, because it's from there that we can have responsible growth, and with responsible growth, it increases our tax base, and it also lowers the cost of doing business. And you know, we're very thankful of the 107 homes that will be built through Habitat. That's going to be a wonderful addition. But again, you know, a city our size doing both water and wastewater, it's quite an accomplishment, and my hat goes off to our staff that keeps things flowing. Thank you.
Thank you all for your answers. Mary, we're going to turn to you for question number 3 first, and that is, public safety is important to residents. How would you fund a robust fire and police department?
I love our fire and police. I'm sorry, I just love them. I have the greatest appreciation for our fire and police department. Angels Camp is the only incorporated city in Calaveras County, and we are so fortunate to have our own emergency protection. Personally, I've had the use of both recently, and I can't say enough about it. Was that the question again? Did I screw up? Sorry. I just think I do know that we were able to hire some new fire under Measure A, which we had a couple, 2, 3 new people, and that's certainly going to help the fire department. And that's all I can say. I just think our fire and protection, we are very fortunate to have what we have.
Thank you, Mary. Caroline, same question. Public safety is important to residents. How would you fund a robust fire and police department?
So the taxpayers voted and spoke, and we have Measure A money now coming in, and it's starting October 1st, so we're already now into that taxable area. With that funding, we are looking at adding like $600,000 to our budget to fund fire. It's quite a bit of money. That's great. So we are restructuring the fire department. We just talked about it, I think it was 2 meetings ago, and approved a restructuring of the department for many reasons, but it also allows us to take part-time firefighters to full-time and have a fully staffed engine of 3 members on it. So when you call 911, you're gonna have 3 folks show up on the engine, which is great. That's also just if there's a fire, it actually allows them to do some of the tasks that firefighters can't do if there's only 2 men on an engine. So with that funding, so the fire department had been funded partially by TOT tax and by general fund, so it kind of opens up some general fund money, maybe some TOT tax to reallocate over to the PD, to the police department. The police department is struggling right now to retain officers, to recruit officers. We are down 1 position right now, and we have been looking to fill that position for well over a year. And right when we get that filled, we have someone leave. So it's just this ongoing issue of how can we retain them and what does that look like? And I wholeheartedly agree that we need to fund them. They are probably the most expensive line item on our budget, but it's one of those benefits of living in the city is that you have a dedicated police department. So public safety to me is incredibly important. I 100% back those two departments, and like I said, when they ask for things like updated software, we listen and we respond and we figure out a way to fund some of those things. So.
Mr. Tremente, same question. Public safety is important to residents. How would you fund a robust fire and police department?
I think everything that has been mentioned up until this point, it's not fun being last sometimes, guys. Oh, you're last. It's his time. Measure A, I think, was the right thing to do. No one likes to see taxes go up or rates go up, but it is going to allow us to do what we need to do. I was early on in my tenure as a city council person, Chief Robaugh came and made a comment and was asking for more funding and was talking about Measure A and what could be done with it. And he mentioned what Caroline mentioned. Right now we're rolling just 2 folks, and with Measure A we can put that third body on the fire engine, and that means we can respond. I think we also need to be good listeners. We need to listen to the folks that we put in charge, our police chief and our fire chief, and make sure that we're supporting them every way we can and doing everything we can do. The other thing that we need to do is be cognizant of what's happening in our community. I've had a number of community members talk to me about Gardner Lane, and in fact that's a connector between Murphy's Grade and Dogtown, and people drive way too fast. How can we address that? I'm concerned about our crosswalks downtown. When there's cars parked, even though there's the red where you can't park, if there's a vehicle or a student or a citizen walking into the crosswalk, you can't see it. So I've talked with Melissa Raggio from the Council of Governments, and hopefully working with Caltrans, we can do something to make it safer for our pedestrians to cross the street. So, safety should be our primary focus. It should be our primary focus. Because when we have a safe city, it allows us to do what we need to do, and it's a visible representation that for people who want to relocate to our area, that this is a good place to relocate. So it is very important. Thank you.
Mr. Fish, public safety is important to residents. How would you fund a robust fire and police department?
Well, as everybody says, Measure A is going to help the fire department big time. The police department is an excellent police department. They have some great officers there. And my personal opinion is that we need to fund both of those to the fullest extent that we can. If you have a police department and a fire department that is fully staffed and fully functional with the needs that they need, that's when you have a safer community. And it's like Mike was saying here, he's talking about the crosswalks. There's a crosswalk right here in front of the dollar store right here. When the school buses are turning down on the Lee Lane right there, you can't see kids walking into there. That's one of the main concerns right there it's been brought to my attention multiple times. And the other thing is the speed limit in town. On weekends, you got people coming through here just full force, and it's without having the police department, fully functional and having the full department working on it. These people just go through these intersections, and it's just, they don't care. And you got to have the police department there to work with that, and if you have a wreck, then there's your fire department. That's not something we want. We've got to have a safe community. But I think lowering the speed limits and doing something different in that nature would help a lot. And I too, Mike. I live off of Gardner Lane, and you ought to see the people come through there. It's insane sometimes. I mean, they really do. They come through there at 50 miles an hour, and there's a lot of kids over there now. And that's the last thing I want to see is a kid hit. I mean, it's scary, and you don't want to see that. So I think having a fully staffed and fully funded fire department and police department, and that's where it has to start right there. And you have to bow to their wishes. I mean, regardless of the money, you have to come to their terms. because without them, we don't survive. That's all I got, thanks.
Residents have concerns about growth. What is your vision for both economic and physical growth in the city, such as annexation, building more homes, etc.? And we're starting with Ms. Sherrado.
Thank you. Great question. So as we had mentioned with water and wastewater rates, growing the city responsibly is definitely something that we need to consider. It's wonderful that Habitat's bringing in 107 units, and I can only see additional development happening that's adjacent to it. We're also looking at annexation. There are some property owners who are very interested in annexing into the city, which helps with property taxes. It brings more revenue to the city, but it also allows us to have that flexibility when it comes time to look at developments. And so it also ties in with business developments. It's very exciting to see on the horizon some large projects that are coming our way that will only serve this city better. I want to keep my dollars here in this town. I want to be able to purchase what I need here, and we can only do that by adding additional businesses to our roster. And so ways that we can do that and working with DAC, working with ACPA, doing certain outreach with our own city. There's things that we've done downtown where we are looking at, we've done some ordinances to help with some of the empty buildings, to help really kind of increase awareness to the building owners about renting. We are looking at grant money on doing some different types of upgrades to the buildings downtown for facades, for just general cleanup, helping business owners open up, learning how to run a small business, what it takes to run a small business, all these types of grant monies that are coming in to help with that. So there's a lot of different ways we can look at this, but I want to circle back to the annexation is probably number one that we need to look at, and then how we can grow in a responsible way.
Mr. Chimente, residents have concerns about growth. What is your vision for both economic and physical growth of the city, such as annexation, building more homes, etc.?
I agree with Caroline regarding annexation. We recently looked at and adopted certain measures or criteria that we would use prior to annexation. And if they met those criteria, then the council could look at that. I also think that we need to look at the cost of building a home in Angels Camp. You know, we recently did a study, and to build a 2,000 square foot home minus the school mitigation fees, there's almost $40,000. $11,000 of those is traffic mitigation. So we're now looking at, you know, do we take on another study? Let's look at the fees. You know, how do we entice new businesses? You know, I agree. I think it's important to be more inclusive. You know, what is the vision for our city, and how do we go about achieving that vision? You know, too many times, people have things done to them and don't even understand why it's happening. If we're going to grow, because sometimes growth is a scary word. Right now we're working on Foundry Lane. If we can create that connection of Foundry Lane, it's going to give us another way to, you know, not bypass the main road, but it'll get us to the end of town. And with Foundry Lane, you know, Caltrans may develop another entrance into the shopping center. So, you know, sometimes that word growth is scary, but I think if we embrace it and talk about it and understand it, we all will be better for it in a number of ways. And again, I think it's involving all the key players in decisions that we make going down the road. Thank you.
Mr. Fish, residents have concerns about growth. What is your vision for both economic and physical growth of the city, such as annexation, building more homes, etc.?
Annexation is a good way to start, but you have to have your infrastructure done first. We go kind of backwards again here. you gotta have the water to facilitate it, you gotta have the sewer treatment plant to facilitate everything. If you have that, then you can have the growth. Until then, you really kind of kicking yourself in the rear for it. Once you build your infrastructure, the growth can come. And when you do that, it brings more to this. In the way of, I'm trying to say this in a term that if you have the infrastructure there and you have your growth coming in with that, that's when you can have more buildings, more businesses, and more expansion. But until then, you gotta have your infrastructure built. The annexation, and when you annex property to create more income for the taxes, that still doesn't alleviate your infrastructure problem. It does in a way, but it doesn't. It's like, as I was talking earlier with somebody, I said, you know, you can't build a house and then decide to put in the septic system. You gotta have the septic system in before you build your house. And when you do that, then you can have your growth. I agree with growth, we gotta have it, but there's ways to do it in a proper way. That's what I got.
Ms. Kelly, residents have concerns about growth. What is your vision for both economic and physical growth of the city, such as annexation, building more homes, etc.?
This is real hard. I don't have a vision. Housing and maintaining growth is just a really tough question for the city. I don't know how to address that issue and the concern. Simply put, annexation confuses me, and I need to do my homework and get more information. But obviously, there is a problem with buying costs of houses and rentals that are non-existent. These are major concerns. My own family goes through them. So I really don't have an answer to that. I just think it's everywhere. Unfortunately, it's here now too. So that's really, I don't have an answer. I'm sorry, I don't have anything.
Thank you.
I can't believe Lori didn't get this question. Are we back with Mike?
Yes, you're back with Mike.
You guys can relax.
This Mike. You like Mike?
Mike Chimente. Have you ever jumped a frog, Mike?
Can we answer it?
No. I don't think I've ever been to the fair and officially participated in the frog jump.
So if elected, would you be willing to jump a frog?
I'll even kiss the frog.
Same question to Mr. Fish. Have you
Yes,
ever jumped
I
a
have.
frog?
Yes, I have jumped frogs before.
Awesome.
I've caught a lot of them too.
Mary, have you jumped a frog?
I have jumped a frog. I have kissed a frog. I am actually a member of the frog committee, and I've worked for the last 12 or 15 years on the stage as a volunteer for the frog jumps, and it is awesome, and I've had just a wonderful time.
You should have started with that question, huh, Mary?
You should have. I would have relaxed totally.
Caroline, have you ever jumped a frog?
I have jumped a frog. His name was Remington Steele. And I have kissed a frog. I actually have a picture of it somewhere at one of the Chamber of Commerce meetings. But yes, I have.
Nice. Well, thank you guys very much. As we close, we're going to have each candidate give us 1 minute closing statement. And we'll start with Mike Fish. You have 1 minute to close.
Okay, well, I am just a person that just really foresees a lot for the city. We can do a lot, and we can do a lot better. And we have a vision. Everybody has a vision for the city. Some of them don't want growth, some of them do want growth. But we have to have some kind of growth to sustain this. We gotta have growth. We gotta have, you can't just take and walk away from it. When we do this, and we do this with the people, we have a community. We have to be together. We can't walk away from each other. We have to talk to each other. We have to be with each other. We have to know what everybody's thinking and what everybody wants. When you have that, you have a good growth. You don't have something that's just one-sided. You're equal, and that's the best part about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Mary.
Okay. Sorry. I would describe myself as an open and honest person. I'm dedicated and happy to live in the City of Angels, and I'm eager for the opportunity to serve on City Council. And I want to thank the committee, the Forum Committee, for allowing me this opportunity. And I want to say good luck to all my fellow candidates, and, you know, we'll all do good. And thank you all for showing up, too. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Caroline.
Well, I'm really proud of all the work that has happened on City Council the last 3.5 years that I've participated. I hope that this community sees the value in that as well. There's no personal agenda for me running. It's just to serve. I am really focused on 2 things going into this, and that's economic development and safety. Those are the 2 areas that I am really wanting to put some more muscle behind. I agree with, we've got to listen to our constituents. We do that all the time at City Council when people show up, and you can go back and watch us talk about chickens and the importance of chickens, and I find chickens very important. So I was really glad to hear our community speak up at that time, but I'm here to serve, and I would be honored to be elected to continue my work on these projects. I have experience, and I would love the opportunity to put that experience to work for the next 4 years. So when you fill out your ballot, vote for me.
Thank you, Caroline. Michael Chimente.
All of my life I have served, and I'd be students, staff, the community. I am honored to be on City Council. I am honored to be a part of something that in some ways is bigger than I am. I have got the greatest respect for our current City Council. I believe we've made some tough decisions. I believe we've had some great discussions. My wife was born and raised in Angels Camp. My 3 boys were raised here, went through Bret Harte High School, are successful. 30 seconds. And it's just been an honor to serve. I truly appreciate the opportunity to do the research, to think about things, to have good, sound, hard discussions, and to always remember our job is to do the very, very best job we can for the citizens of Angels Camp. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. So all 5 of you, or all 4 of you, we have 5 candidates that are running for 3 positions. So hopefully this has given all of you some more insight on who those best candidates might be. Thank you.
So next up will be the Bret Harte Union School District. So we're doing our little change out here. The next speaker is shorter than me, so I guess I'm bending down. But while we're just sitting here, why don't you look at your neighbor and tell them they look good? Right? Now, you don't want anybody offended, so do the other neighbor now. Tell the other neighbor that they look good. Okay. Yeah. So, running for the Bret Hart Union High School School Board is Tisha Ashby and Jason Lewis, Kelly Sin, and Sheila Kirpin. You guys want to take your seats? Tisha and Jason. Kelly Sin is unable to participate as she is traveling, but has submitted a statement to share and will be read by Gail Bunch.
Thank you. She lowered it for me. I appreciate it. I'm Gail Bunge. I'm the current board president at Bret Hart Union High School District. You hearing me back there? It's all good? Okay. I'm going to read two statements, Kelly Sens and Sheila Kirpin, who are incumbents running again. The first is from Kelly Sen. Hello and good evening to everyone, and thank you for coming and attending Candidates Night. I would like to apologize for not being able to attend tonight's candidate meeting. Gail Bunge will be reading my candidate statement this evening. I would like to also thank Debbie Ponte for her hard work in putting this evening together so that you as parents and community members can be better informed. I am a Bret Hart High School graduate, and I have chosen to run for a second term for the Bret Hart Union High School Board. I have served as a board member for the past 4 years. I have enjoyed and found the experience to be very rewarding. I believe that I can make a difference as a result of being involved in both school districts as a parent and grandparent of successful Michelson, Avery Middle, and Bret Hart graduates. I have worked locally for many years in sales and owner and operator of a small business, and finished my sales career in real estate before retiring. I have been a volunteer in the community for over 40 years and still continue to be a volunteer for many community organizations. I believe that a school board member has a heavy influence on the spirit and impression of its community and school system. I recognize that parents and the people of this community have entrusted the board members with the educational development of the students and our youth. Our schools are important to us whether we are parents, homeowners, or simply citizens who want to live in a community that values education. I am willing to continue my devotion, time, and energy that this community deserves in making decisions that will support our students, teachers, and staff, striving to make it as great as we possibly can for students leads to a more positive attitude. As a board member, my goals are to ensure that we keep Bret Hart Union High School financially solvent and continue to provide the best education possible for students. I want to thank all of you again for taking the time to come this evening and to thank you for your support. I look forward to continuing to serve you as a Bret Hart Union High School board member. You can applaud for Kelly. And then this is from Sheila Kirpin, who both of these ladies had family out-of-town events planned ahead of time. This is from Sheila. Good evening, and thank you for your interest and participation in our democratic process. A family wedding has me out of state and unable to attend this evening's event. It has been my privilege to serve on the Bret Hart Union High School District Board for the past 4 years. My family moved to Calaveras County from Southeast Alaska in 2002, and we are truly thankful for the life that we enjoy here. I have welcomed many opportunities to participate in public service and volunteer activities that strengthen our county. Our 4 children all graduated from Bret Harte, as well as 3 of our nieces. As is often the case in a small town, the school became the center of our life. I assisted the Proposition K committee and was quite happy when our youngest son joined the first water polo team to make use of the pool the community helped fund. As a parent, I treasured our school community and staff. I continue to do so as a board member. It is my intent that the board continues the tradition of collaboration that Bret Harte has enjoyed for more than a century. I was asked to serve to this purpose and will continue to do so if I serve again. There are always new challenges to face and new policies to navigate. I commit to doing so to the benefit of the district and our students. And a hand for Sheila. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. So this will be run similar to the last one that we did. We'll start with introductions. So Tisha, you will have 2 minutes to begin sharing a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this position.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Tisha Ashby. I know the spelling is a little bit odd, but I assure you it is Tisha. Many of you don't know me, so I hope that you will take this chance to get to know me a little bit better. I have been living and working in Calaveras County for the past 44 years. I am a Bret Harte graduate of class of 1984. I believe in community service, and I currently volunteer as the recording secretary for the White Pines Park Committee, a local 503c that operates on volunteer service hours and donations from our community. For the last 35 years, I have worked with students of Calaveras County as a classified employee, sometimes working directly with the students in the classroom and sometimes working behind the scenes as their support. From 1989 to 2014, I worked for Calaveras Unified School District. I started my career in public education in the Maintenance and Operations Department as a custodian. Eventually, I transferred into the business department where I was encouraged to continue my education in accounting. In the business department, I grew to my true potential, learning all the functions of the school district business office. I earned my Chief Business Official certification through California Association of School Business Officials and spent my last 2 years with CUSD as the business manager. In 2014, I joined Calaveras County Office of Education as a payroll specialist, a lot less stress and a lot closer to home. In 2020, right before COVID, I moved over to the human resources side of the house at CCOE, working directly with the classified and certificated staff. Today, I am Human Resources Administrative Assistant for Vallecito Union School District. VUSD is one of the 2 elementary districts that feed into Bret Harte High School. I believe that our students are our future, and we all need to participate in their growth and their support. If we fail them, we fail ourselves. With my experience in public education, I feel I'm an excellent candidate to support Bret Harte Union High School's students, staff, parents, and board. And I hope you will consider me as your choice for Bret Harte School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Tisha. Next, we'll hear from Jason Lewis.
Good evening. My name is Jason Lewis, and I'm running for a position on the Bret Harte Union High School Board. I seek this position to listen to and represent our community. I would be proud to serve this community as the oversight of this great public resource and hold our superintendent to task, providing Mr. Nanick with direction and support that he may be better equipped to be better tomorrow than he is today, and even better the day after. I am a longtime member of this community, and I am committed to preserving the excellence of our schools. I grew up here in Calaveras, and while I did spend a few years living on the Central Coast, I have spent the majority of my years living in Calaveras County, where I have had the pleasure of raising my 2 children. Recently, my daughter Aurora graduated from Bret Harte High School, and she is attending one of the top colleges in America. I credit her experience and opportunities at Bret Harte with her continued opportunity as a young adult. I know that if it wasn't for the excellence of this school, she wouldn't have had this opportunity. My son Hendrix is currently in 6th grade, but he is coming to Bret Harte soon, and I would like to do everything I can to ensure this school continues to have the support and vision it needs to ensure that he too has the same education and opportunities available to him. I have spent many years working as a winemaker in this community, but one of my greatest joys was leaving the wine industry to work in public service. First with the County Public Works Department, gaining extensive experience in working with heavy equipment, but also in how to work in a government agency bound by budgets and regulations. Now I work as manager of transportation for VUSD, and as the MOT for Vallecito Union School District. I work both with our superintendent, CFO, and most importantly, directly with the students. I am very familiar with the commitment required of the board members, and I attend monthly meetings for VUSD. It is this familiarity with the process of meetings, as well as the professionalism and confidentiality required of board members, that I believe will make me an excellent candidate to join your Bret Harte board team.
So on to the questions. We have 5 questions to ask, and we'll just take turns with candidates. You guys will go back and forth with who's first. Okay, and so our first question, you're asking. I'm just explaining questions because they don't know what a question is. So I thought I needed to explain it. Okay, how do you believe your district should address the achievement gap between different student populations? And what strategies should be employed to ensure all students are college or trade school ready? Tisha.
That's a very good question. I am actually very pro the CTE program, because I am one of those students that did not come out of Bret Harte college ready. How's that? I did come out of CTE programs though, and I believe that all students have some place that they fit, but it's not exactly the same for all of the students. So I don't know so much that there's a gap as much as that we need to find where the students fit and where they will fit in our community when they grow up. So I would work more towards that, finding the right place for the students.
Thank you. Jason, how do you believe your district should address the achievement gap between different student populations, and what strategies should be employed to ensure all students are college or trade school ready?
This is a great question, because while a lot of students are motivated to head off to college and universities, there's a lot of students who, here because they are required to do so. Being part of the campus experience in high school, of course, needs to be encouraged to allow these students to gain the skills they need to go on beyond high school. Some of them for trade schools, and others just to simply work in the community. There are also many opportunities to do that through ROTC programs and other things that can be encouraged on campus. It is great that we also have the alternative education resources through the other John Vieira. Is it not John Vieira anymore, or high school, but or Vallecito High School right here locally as well. But we need to encourage essentially participation within the campus. There's lots of extracurricular things that can be done to really provide these opportunities. And once you're here, you're able to gain just by being around, learning a little bit of math, a little bit of reading and things to help those that are less focused. As well as strengthening the opportunities for those who want to go on to give them even better programs, better AP placement programs, allow them to get the strengths they need so they have opportunities outside of this community as well.
Thank you.
Next question, we'll start with Jason first. And this time, when it is increasingly difficult to find employees, what can the district do to improve staff and teacher recruitment?
Employee recruitment is definitely one of the biggest challenges across the board in our community right now. Here at the schools, one of the things that we probably should be focusing on is finding within budget resources to meet the demands of cost of living. It's definitely a great challenge that needs to be addressed. And a good lot of focus is going to be needed to take on that. There's educational requirements within most of the staffing as well. So providing the ability to help educate people, paraeducators as bus drivers and other things is a really good way to help bring that in. Sometimes we have to look at signing bonuses and other things as well. So.
Thank you, Jason. Tisha, same question. And this time, when it is increasingly difficult to find employees, what can the district do to improve staff and teacher recruitment?
So, being part of Vallecito Union and being in the HR department, we've done a lot of what they call comp studies between different districts in our area, our rural districts. We are considered rural, between Tuolumne County, Calaveras County, Amador County. And I'm very happy to say that we actually are pretty high up on the scale for salaries. And for the most part, I believe that most families that move into Calaveras County move here to stay. But I think we need to find other ways to promote wanting to be a teacher, wanting to be a classified, wanting to be part of the school district. I don't think that people really understand what type of public service education really serves. When talking with people, a lot of times they don't necessarily know exactly what we do. I have personally been to hiring fairs over at Columbia College, down at Teachers College of San Joaquin in Stockton. And I think that if we can promote our county and promote our schools and also our ratings in our schools, if we look at our dashboards, we can promote people moving into our area if they can find a place to live and be part of our community. I really do believe once people come here, see our education, see our schools, see our community, they come here to stay. So I would work more towards making it more of a, this is our community, this is where we live, this is who we support, and be part of us. That's all.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Starting with Tisha, why is school safety important to student achievement, and what are some ways safety can be enhanced for both students and staff in the district?
Safety for our students, number one, is important no matter what. Our kids need to feel like when they come to school, they are in a safe place. If they can let down their guard, if they can settle into a spot, if they know they can trust the teachers, the staff, the classified, then they can learn better. If they are not feeling safe, I don't believe they have the capacity to concentrate and be in the classroom fully. I really like that Bret Harte became a closed campus. I'm not so sure the kids really like it. It was an open campus when I went here, and I will tell you right now, we all ran amok. So having the closed campus, I know for me, when I come down the hill, I know that when the kids are gonna be in the classroom, and I know when the school is gonna be locked down. So I feel more comfortable that I don't have to be concerned about students being out and about where they may be getting into more trouble. Sometimes school is the safest place that our kids have, and we need to understand that they have to have that ability to be here and be their true selves in order to learn, and that we are here to protect them. So I really do, I appreciate what Bret Harte has done, and I appreciate the communication that we get even up the hill when there are issues going on with our students. So I don't know if I answered that question, but I'm done.
Jason, why is school safety important to student achievement, and what are some ways safety can be enhanced for both students and staff in the district?
Student safety is one of the most important things for student achievement, because in order to succeed, you have to do so in a place that's not stressful and very welcoming. So student safety is not just physical safety as well. It's safety in behaviors around you. So the idea of bullying and other things that do exist needs to be addressed, and it needs to be done so in such a way where we actually incorporate more of a positive attitude between each other, promoting human kindness essentially. That has this transcendental effect on the physical safety as well. It's great to see here that we've have gone to a closed campus and also included Angels PD here on site, which helps discourage a lot of certain kinds of behaviors. Things still happen though, and having staffing shortages also affects this. So looking into staffing to be more available to watch bathrooms and things like that is a really important aspect. Another big one is actually communication, sometimes even over-communicating, looking at how the campus and administration can reach out to students and parents when there are issues, and so that they can be aware and also be proactive.
Thank you.
We'll be starting with Jason again. Question number 4. Explain your understanding of school budgets and funding. What part does the board play in fiscal health and financial priorities of the district?
School budgets are a very diverse resource. Certain kinds of funds are dedicated only for certain purposes, and others are more broad, like our general fund. The school board action in this is predominantly to set policy so that administration has guidelines on where they can move the money around as necessary to accomplish the task that they have, which is, of course, a really big task. Number one is, of course, focusing on education and safety within that.
Tisha, explain your understanding of school budgets and funding. What part does the board play in the fiscal health and financial priorities of the district?
So Bret Harte High School is what we consider a basic aid school district. That means we are fully funded from our property taxes. That means that basically we are not held to the constraints of the state of California and what they provide for what are ADA schools, or schools that are based on student being in their seats. Because we are a basic aid district, we have more dollars to spend in the classroom. We have more dollars to spend basically on our staff and our students. That all funds into the general fund. The general fund is what we pay the majority of everything out of. The school board in themselves, they look at and approve the budget annually. This district has a financial manager, her name is Chris Fouts. Chris works with the superintendent, Scott Nanick, and the school board to set the budget annually. There are 3 reports that go out to the public. There's the budget report that comes out in early June. There is the first interim report that comes out in January. There's the unaudited actuals, which is the closing of the books the previous year. And then there's the second interim that comes out, I want to say it's going to be mid-March to April, to bring the public up to date on what is going on with the budget. The public has the right every year to know exactly what's going on with their money, where their money is being spent as far as staffing, as far as projects, as far as how much money is being spent on supplies for the classroom. But the board initially is the one that approves that budget. So the budget is brought to the board looks at the budget, and whether or not they've heard from the constituents about how the money is being spent, they may approve that budget, or they may ask the business manager to take it back and make some adjustments. Maybe we want to move more money into transportation, or maybe we want to move more money into certificated salaries. That is the board's purview on the budget. They are there to look at and see how we use our money that is paid through our taxes to support and educate our students. Did I answer it?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
As a board member, how would you encourage collaboration and partnerships between your districts, the city and county administration, local businesses, community organizations, and parent groups to foster a shared vision of success for all students in our communities?
First and foremost, I think you need to be visible. I think you need to participate in the activities that are going on throughout the community with the businesses, with things like the frog jump, the parent-teacher clubs. I'm not sure about the high school parent-teacher club. That would be something I'd need to look into. And I think that you also need to be present in the activities that the students are participating in. The kids need to know who the school board are, and the kids need to know what the school board are. They're not just a bunch of older people that sit up there and make rules. If the kids know what the school government program is and how the board runs, it helps them better understand how the community runs, how the city council runs, how the county runs. And it gives them better information on being good stewards of our local government. So for building that trust, I think it's participation, and I think it's being visible at activities, personally.
Great, thank you. Jason, as a board member, how would you encourage collaboration and partnerships between your district, the city, and county administration, local businesses, community organizations, and parent groups to foster a shared vision of success for all students in our communities?
I would actually second Tisha in the aspect that being part and present at as many events as possible is probably one of the most important things to encourage collaboration with any organization and all the events with the students, with the and the community as a whole. One of the biggest parts about that is it allows you to be there, to be a good listener, and to listen to what the needs are of the community, the needs of the students, that you may take action upon that. Our number one, one of the main things as board members, we are essentially representatives of the community. So it's bringing that information that we are able to learn through collaboration back to the board meetings to help us make the best decisions possible. Not always are these subjective based on our own opinions, but objective based on the opinions of everybody and a complete thought and working together to make the best things happen.
Thank you.
Next, we'll just have some closing statements from each of you. You have 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll start with Jason.
All right. I seek to maintain a vision for Bret Harte where every student may be set up for success in our community and beyond. They should be prepared with the skills they need to succeed, whether they seek to go off to colleges and universities, trade schools, or directly enter the workforce after high school. I hope that we may help our students become lifelong learners. I also seek to maintain a vision for our facilities as the centerpieces of our community, providing educational and recreational opportunities for all members of our community. I believe that by working together and listening to each other with respect, we can do hard things and make our school better tomorrow than it is today, and even better the day after. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Tisha, would you like to?
So I was recently blessed with the opportunity to become a grandma. And I am blessed that my son, his wife, and my new granddaughter live in Arnold with us. They bought a house up there, so I assume they will be here for a good majority of their life. And for that, I would like Bret Harte to be the place like it was when I went to high school. Not all students come from homes that are pristine and perfect, I will say that. And I will tell you right now that as a student of Bret Harte High School, I felt safe when I went to school here in the 80s. I felt appreciated as a student. I felt that I learned really good skills to be a student. And I really would like the students of today to feel that same thing. I think that we're gonna have a pretty good issue coming up soon because we're coming out of COVID and we're starting to see what happened during COVID to our students. And I think we're gonna need to double down on what we can do. So I would just, that's it.
Thank you very much. You're a rule follower too. That's great. Appreciate that. As a reminder, folks, we have 4 candidates running for 3 positions for the Bret Harte Union High School District. These are 2 of them, Jason and Tisha. Sheila Kirpin and Kelly Sen also are running. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're now going to get set up to hear from Mark Twain Union Elementary School District candidates.
All right, Mark Twain Union Elementary School District. And running for this school district is Cora Brolio, Jenny Eltringham, who's not with us tonight, Megan Gutierrez, Shorty Gutierrez. Oh, that's the same person, by the way. I know. Brad Lehman and Christy Miro. So we're going to do introductions. You each get 2 minutes, and they're timing you down there. So we will begin with you sharing an introduction of yourself and why you are running for this position. And we will be starting with Cora Broglio.
Ready, go. I'm Cora Broglio. I am thrilled and also a little exhausted, but I'm up here announcing my candidacy. I've been a resident of this county for 38 years. I myself did not attend Mark Twain, but I went Hazel Fisher, Avery, Bret Harte, so very familiar with working being in these rural schools. And so grateful for the teachers who now I look back on it and realize we're doing double duty and also being the lunch ladies and the bus drivers and the athletic coaches. Went to CSU Stanislaus, got my bachelor's degree in liberal arts, obtained a moderate severe teaching credential, and spent the first 10 years working with students with autism in early intervention, where I thought that I knew it all about children and parenting until I then had my own children. And then I decided to stay home with them. So I stayed home for about 12 years, had a daughter, had a son. The opportunity presented itself to get a job at Mark Twain, and I jumped on it. Little did I know that it was going to be quite the jump. The teachers there were amazing. I don't know that I had been blessed with the opportunity to work with such a dedicated staff up until that point. But unfortunately, I had to leave because I didn't feel supported. There was a high rate of turnover. I just didn't feel like I was the right fit for that job, but I knew that I could not walk away from that school where my children and my 9 nieces and nephews still attend without bringing my experience and my voice and my opinion to the school board. So that's it.
Thank you, Cora. Shorty?
Hi, my name's Shorty, Megan Gutierrez, if you're checking the box next to my name. I have been a Calaveras County resident for over 12 years. I live in Angels Camp and have been a licensed barber for the past 2.5 years. I previously worked at Mark Twain Elementary under several different roles: custodian, paraprofessional, health aide, athletic director, coach basketball, ran book fair, and have been on Badger Boosters. These experiences have given me the skills necessary to be a well-rounded board member and have a very good understanding of activities, roles, and state regulatory requirements. I am known for my hard work, dedication, and integrity. I am committed to bringing these values to my role as a board member. If elected, my primary goals are to connect the school board with the school. Just from working there, there's a huge disconnect between the people who are making all the decisions, the people who are actually in the trenches doing all the work. So I'd really like to bridge that gap. I'm committed to continuing my volunteer work, which I'm still currently volunteering every morning in the school. And I think as a board member, I would encourage others to volunteer as well, not just make the decisions, but be on campus. And that's it.
Thank you. Brad.
Yes, hello. My name is Brad Lehman. I'm 41 years old, and I'm not going to talk a lot about myself because I don't feel that I'm that important. I feel that the children are the ones that are very important. I have 3 children within the district. I have 1 at Copperopolis Elementary, and I have 2 at Mark Twain. And I'm running for this board because I feel that one day we will all have to answer to somebody. Now, who or what that someone is up to each individual. And for me, it's God. I believe one day I'll have to give an account for everything I ever said, thought, or did in my life. But I understand that is not the belief of every person in this room or in this school district, and I do not force my views or beliefs on anybody. I believe in free will. But one way or the other, we're going to have to answer important questions in life, and I think those questions are going to come from our neighbors, our friends, our family, our spouses, and most importantly, our children. And I believe we'll be asked questions like, why did you not stand up for me? Why did you not speak up? Were you afraid? Where were you when I needed you? Or what made you do nothing? So each individual will be faced with similar questions, and some will not have an answer. Some will have to look inward to determine why they did nothing, and some will realize that they were controlled by fear. Some will have to admit they were lazy, and the worst is some will admit that doing nothing was justified. I'm here because something needs to be done. Someone needs to stand up for our children, and someone has to say no to harmful ideas that are damaging our future generations. I stand here not as that someone. I am just one person. I'm a father. I'm a simple man. I'm not qualified to take on the mess that has become California's educational system. I do not have the degrees to undergo such a task. However, I truly believe that you guys do, that the people of this community do. And I believe that if we get involved and we get together, we could put a stop to a lot of the stuff that harms our children. That's why I'm running for this position, is to give you a chance to use me as a conduit to address these issues facing our children. We have to protect our little ones. It's our jobs as parents to safeguard their futures, and I believe if we work together, we can do that. Thank you.
Christy.
Good evening. My name is Christy Miro, and I am running for re-election to the Mark Twain Union Elementary School Board. I've been a proud resident in Calaveras County for almost 40 years. My public school journey began at Michelson when it was still a K-8, so that was a really long time ago. I graduated Bret Harte High School, as did my husband of 23 years. We're deeply rooted in the community, and our 3 children have all attended Mark Twain and Bret Harte. Luca graduated in 2021, Neil will graduate in 2025, and Kyra in 2027. Throughout the years, I've been deeply committed to serving our schools and community. I've had the privilege of serving as Parent Club President, serving on the Bond Oversight Committee, representing parents on both county and state School Attendance Review Board, with my role on the state SARB being a particular honor. I was appointed by the state superintendent. I've also contributed to our community by previously serving on the Juvenile Justice Commission, sitting on hiring panels for Mark Twain and Bret Harte, participating in accreditation and discipline committees, mentoring senior projects, coaching AMA, coaching soccer, and coordinating Junior Miss Calaveras. When I ran for this position in 2020, it was during COVID. My primary goal was to ensure that our kids could return safely to school and continue their education. At that time, I believed I would only serve 1 term. In fact, everybody I knew, I said, I am one and done. However, with the hiring of our current superintendent, I was re-energized at the 11th hour. Through tears and prayers, I quickly realized I still have more to give. I'm deeply committed to being an advocate for parents, students, and transparency, helping to ensure that our public schools reflect the values of our community.
Excellent. Well, Brolio is higher in the English language. You get to go first. First question. Well, we have a series of 5 questions to ask, and we will take turns with each candidate. Each one will take turns. We're going in alphabetical order. Lori, it looks like you get to ask the first question. Thank God, because it's really long. Sorry, group.
Okay, we will be starting with Shorty because Cora was the first to introduce herself. So, Shorty, students in your district are spending less time in the classroom because of significant increase in staff development in service time since the COVID pandemic. However, during that same period, student test scores have gone down with only 11% of the district students proficient in math and 24% proficient in English. Do you think the district should continue to have the early release of students every Friday? And what are some strategies the district should employ to increase student performance?
As far as the test scores being low, I don't think we need more time in the class. I think we need better use of time in the class. I know just from having a kid at Mark Twain, a lot of this stuff's done on the computer, which is great, but if you're so nervous that you're pushing and completing the test before you've even answered all the questions, then the score is going to be low. So I do think we should look into possibly going back to old school on the paper where you can skip a question a lot easier and go back to it. Also, I think really looking into how are each child really learning, because everybody learns differently. Personally, as a parent at Mark Twain, I'm not so fond of the fact that homework isn't a huge thing. This year, both the teachers that we have give a decent amount of homework, and a lot of people don't learn the first time when you're just getting the lesson from the teacher. So homework just reiterates and allows kids to get a little bit more help. I think that's huge. And then also, I know further up the hill, they have reading programs where we have tons of retired people here in our community. And my dad was one of them. He worked at Mark Twain or at Michelson and did a reading program where they volunteered. I've already talked to the superintendent about us possibly doing something like that because our reading scores are low. So I think also just including the community and helping our children out. Not necessarily extending their time, but just making better use of it.
Thank you. Brad, same question. Students in your district are spending less time in the classroom because of significant increase in staff development and service time since the COVID pandemic. However, during that same time period, student test scores have gone down with only 11% of the district students proficient in math and 24% proficient in English. Do you think the district should continue to have early release of students every Friday, and what are some strategies the district should employ to increase student performance?
You know, I think children need to be challenged, and I feel that we do have a lot of good teachers here that do that, but I feel like sometimes they're held back. They're kind of handcuffed by, like we said earlier, I think most of the funding comes from actual attendance, and I think we should incentivize teachers and to encourage teachers and challenge them and incentivize them. I know we are not responsible for their pay, but we can incentivize bonuses on the board as directly related to children's academic achievements. instead of just passing them, you know, they show up, they sit in the classroom, they're there, we get a check from the state for that. We should encourage teachers to try to get these students' grades up, and I know that sometimes they're held back by that. I've talked to certain teachers. I have 2 teachers that are friends in a different area, in a different town, and they say that they are literally pressured to just pass students, so they get, especially in public schools. So I think that there needs to be more incentives to encourage these teachers to really strive for excellence. When I was in school, I remember all the posters, strive for excellence, and I had really great teachers, and they really pushed us. And I think we have really good teachers here. I'm not directing this at the teachers, but I think they're held back by the state, and I think they're held back by overly regulated rules. So, and that's all.
Thank you. Christy, same question. Students in your district are spending less time in the classroom because of a significant increase in staff development in-service time since the COVID pandemic. However, during that same time period, student test scores have gone down, with only 11% of district students proficient in math and 24% proficient in English. Do you think the district should continue to have the early release of students every Friday? And what are some strategies the district should employ to increase student performance?
So our current dashboard will be released December 1st, 2024. It's still embargoed, so those numbers are from the previous school year. They are disappointing, nonetheless. I do believe that COVID has sort of created a new baseline. That's kind of what, on several committees that I sit on, is that we're at a crisis. We, locked our schools down. We definitely have significant learning loss. And I think now we are seeing the ability to create a new baseline for our students. I personally think that the early release days are valuable to our teachers. That is some really important professional collaborations that happen on those early release Fridays. And so for them to be able to get together, I think it's just one more tool in their pocket. And so I am a supporter of the early release days. And I think that strong academic foundation that we can create now, we will, like I said, create a baseline. We need to foster independence of our students, and that will create confidence. We need to reach out for more parent engagement, because we do know that students will succeed more if their parents are involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Cora, students in your district are spending less time in the classroom because of significant increase in staff development and service time since the COVID pandemic. However, during the same period, student test scores have gone down, with only 11% of district students proficient in math and 24% proficient in English. Do you think the district should continue to have the early release of students every Friday? And what are some strategies the district should employ to increase student performance?
So having been a teacher on that campus, I'm just wondering where they think all this professional development is coming from, because that's very costly. So a lot of times when the calendars will say things like in-service days and professional development, there isn't a lot of professional growth and development that's actually taking place. It's teachers trying to catch up on grading and paperwork and, doing all those things that we weren't able to do during the week because we had to attend IEP meetings, and there's paperwork with that. Or there were serious behavioral episodes, or there were social and emotional things that took place in the community or in the classroom or on the campus that kind of shut down everyone's ability to learn and access. So Shorty had said a better use of time. To say that it's in-service or early release, and that's kind of why there's less time in the classroom, there's a lot of contributing factors to why teachers aren't able to teach as much as they want with the quality that they want. And part of that has to do with there's some severe differentiation needs in classrooms. We're teaching a wide variety of learners. The achievement gaps are huge at this point. Part of that's COVID, and part of that's just the fact that we're not focusing enough on early intervention. And so by the time the kids are getting into 3rd, 4th grade, we're having such discrepancies in their ability to do basic academics like math and ELA. We're not necessarily in a place financially where we can afford to update our curriculums to provide quality materials or to be able to expand support programs. All of that takes staffing, all of that takes, you know, space and resources, and unfortunately we just don't have those things right now. I think Christy had said that she felt invigorated by this new administration, and I too, as a parent and a teacher, have felt that way. It seems like a lot of very creative things are happening, but really, you know, the focus needs to be on the learner and the support needs to be there for the teacher. If we are providing them those in-service days and those PD days and those early release days, really figuring out how to capitalize on that by asking them what they need. I don't feel like in this district, teachers have been asked what they need. It's, we're going to educate you on this. We're going to professionally develop you here. Instead of saying, tell us everything that happened in your classroom this week and how can we support you? So yeah, a better use of time in class for students, but a better use of time outside of class for teachers.
Thank you.
Question number 2, we'll start with Brad. What is your plan to address the aging infrastructure on both the Mark Twain and Copperopolis school sites?
Well, I think it's hard to fix the car until you pop the hood. You know, once I'm able to pop that hood and get in there and see that budget, then I could figure out ways to address those issues. I started a business during COVID with $600, and in 3 years I was able to buy my own house and have 2 employees. I was able to take on public works projects, prevailing wage projects. We just wrapped a hydrogen train, the first train in California with a hydrogen cell for the state of California. Whether it's good or not, I don't know, but it was something I was involved in. So I'm familiar with balancing a budget. I'm familiar with allocating funds to where they need to be spent. I have to buy materials every week. I have to pay my employees. I have to pay insurances and all that, and I handle all that myself. Originally, my wife was going to do that, but she pursued her career in the medical field, and I'm really happy for that, so I became an accountant as well. So I'm still learning that, but I believe the infrastructure is, from what I've seen, I know there's been a lot of improvements lately, but I believe the infrastructure, it's failing in a lot of areas. I think there's so much work that needs to be done at Copper. It's so outdated. So I think properly allocating those funds to the correct areas is what needs to happen. California, they're projected to spend about $24,000 per child this year. So if you times that by each class, say there's 25 in a classroom, I don't know the average, that's like over $600,000 per classroom. I know that has to go into so many expenses, but I think funds could be allocated. I think teachers should get paid great. I think teachers should get triple figures, but I think also we should work on ways to allocate those funds to fix what needs to be fixed. And I think we need to go and fight for this community because we are one of the least funded. From what I understand, in Calaveras County, Mark Twain is one of the lowest funded districts, and it's not fair. And I'm under the understanding too that if we don't accept certain curriculum that we lose that funding, and that's not right. We shouldn't be punished for, you know, we shouldn't be bribed per se. So I don't know how I would fight that, but I believe with the members of the community, their ideas and my courage, we could do it. Thank you.
Same question to Christy. What is your plan to address the aging infrastructure on both the Mark Twain and the Copperopolis school sites?
I think that what we're currently doing now, utilizing deferred maintenance funds and our previous bond money from, I think it was 2006, 2008, which had been sitting stagnant for a really long time, because there's only certain, it's a restricted fund, obviously bonds have to meet certain criteria. So to have an administration come in and really see the value in, you know, creating better infrastructure and, you know, having the state come in to see what we can qualify for through state funding, 100% of state funding. We just haven't had that vision before, and we do have that now. That's not a promise to say that we're going to get all of it, but I think what we're doing currently, the painting of the school, the branding of the school, looking at, how really our infrastructure is and seeing what we can maximize from the state is the most important, because we are in declining enrollment, and we have to take a good hard look at why we're in declining enrollment. But the fact is we're down about 30 students from this time last year. It equates to about $350-ish thousand. It's a lot, it's a lot of money. So there are a lot of things that we can do to increase enrollment, to increase our budget, to increase those things that we can possibly roll over to certain funds to create a really safe and beautiful campuses for our kids, because I think that will create a better climate for them and for staff. It'll increase staff morale to be proud to walk onto your campuses.
Thank you, Christy. Cora, same question to you. What is your plan to address the aging infrastructure on both the Mark Twain and Copperopolis school sites?
It's tough to follow Mira because she's sat on the board. She knows, so much about what goes into it, the funding. But just as a parent kind of sitting on the sidelines, I once again felt just really excited to get those emails from the new superintendent letting us know that she had found ways to form community partnerships for some of those smaller projects. It might just be a fresh coat of paint and some trees cut down, but it really does increase the pride. As Christy had said, it does speak to the morale. Teachers put so much of our own time and our own money into our rooms, and we take pride in those spaces. That's the expression of our creativity. That's how we show, our love and our value in the students, is to create these spaces where they want to come and they want to learn. But that gets really expensive. Ask my husband. And so just a comprehensive assessment of the facilities and to prioritize repairs. So when we are working with a limited budget like that, making sure that we're spending the money wisely and pulling in as much community input as possible. A lot of times in Mark Twain, the rumor mill kind of runs wild, and that is a detriment to almost every project that they start, because by the time the school gets the information out there, the community has already kind of whipped themselves up into a further about what is actually going on. And so just getting out ahead of these outdated facility issues with clear communication, making sure that they know that we're goal-oriented as a board and that we have a plan. And then just making sure that the school is as modern and accessible as it can be. It must meet the needs of staff and students, and that's how we contribute to the overall learning environment. I think it was my first year there, the siding blew off one of the portables. My room leaked every year that I was there, and God bless those maintenance people, because they were just right there with mops and buckets and tape and all the things to make it work. That Ken Malvini, you guys should see what he can do with a roll of duct tape. But making sure that our maintenance staff has what they need, and making sure also that they feel valued. Those guys have literally one of the dirtiest jobs on that campus, and a lot of times their attention to detail goes unnoticed. So I know there was a bond that failed, and one of the things we heard most often was, well, I went to that school and it was fine when I went there. Well, yeah, it was in the 70s, but we still have those paintings on the walls, and we still have those doors and those leaky windows. And so just kind of opening up that campus and letting people see what the students are dealing with and what the staff is dealing with on a daily basis.
Thank you, Cora. Shorty, what is your plan to address the aging infrastructure on both the Mark Twain and the Copperopolis school sites?
I think that Louise is on a great start. She's done what I've been saying for years, that we need a grant writer. So thank you, Louise. Also, I think prioritizing, like Cora said, making sure our money, we're getting every bit that we can out of it. And then also, one question that I have is asking the right questions to all these houses that we're looking to put in. Yeah, it's good for our community and it's gonna bring a lot of people in, but we're already outgrowing Mark Twain. So where are all these students gonna go? So I think asking those questions and bringing that up to the board, and starting to address that, not wait until, because unfortunately I feel like Mark Twain, we always wait until the last minute and then act. I would love to see us look at this and assess it and make a plan. I mean, I think even a junior high is necessary at this point, to keep K through 6 or K through 5th separate and then have a junior high. Having kindergartners where we vape and they're doing all kinds of other stuff is just unacceptable.
Thank you.
Christy, briefly discuss the difference in restricted versus unrestricted funding and your understanding of how your district is funded and what your budget priorities are.
Sure. So we are funded on our average daily attendance. So it's a formula that you consider student enrollment during different periods of the school year. ADA is generally always lower than student enrollment. So our restricted funds, they're designated for specific purposes. They must be used according to state and federal law, so they can't be, much like bond funds, they can't be used for certain projects. Common use for restricted funds would be special education, school nutrition programs. Unrestricted funds, those can be used for educational purposes as determined by the districts. So salaries, utilities, instructional material, things like that. The source of that is what we call LCFF, which is our local control funding formula. And it just provides a base funding for each student, adjusted for grade level, and additional funding for certain populations like our low income or English learners. Can you repeat the last part of the question? I think I hit them all.
What your budget priorities are?
I think the budget priorities that I am so we have significant staffing challenges, and we also are possibly looking at a minimum wage increase depending on the proposition that's on the ballot. That's going to really hit schools like ours that are funded just on average daily attendance really hard. And we're also, like I mentioned before, we're declining in enrollment, and there's rising costs of education. We are fortunate enough now to have the state contribute 100% to transportation fees, whereas in the previous years it was, I'm sorry, not 100, it's 60%. Previous years it was 30%. And then there's things like unfunded mandate costs. So the state will come in and say, you have to do X, Y, and Z, but we're not gonna fund you for that. So those are things that are really important to think of when you're realigning your budget. That's all.
Thank you. Same question, Cora. Briefly discuss the difference in restricted versus unrestricted funding and your understanding of how your district is funded and what your budget priorities are.
No, thank you. I don't know that I can follow Miro on this one because it's not something I know. But I will tell you that I am very appreciative of Christy and also of Scott being two parents who kind of took up the banner on this and joined the board and did the effort and now know what all that stuff means. So as a parent of Mark Twain attending those school board meetings, I've really appreciated two other parents being able to break it down for me and explain it to me as much as is possible. Perhaps you can tell I don't do the budgeting in our house. So, but I do think that's one of the problems, all jokes aside, is that parents don't understand any of that. They don't understand what any of that means. And so they look at the school and they go, well, why do we have these old books? And why do we have this? But you have a new sped bus and you have, this out here and that out there. I think the paint was like a really contentious point. Well, where did the money from the paint come from? And there's just a lack of understanding about how all of this works. And then we see places like Bret Hart, like everybody take a minute to look around you and go, holy smokes, this is beautiful. And Mark Twain doesn't have that. And so just the understanding of what the basic aid versus average daily attendance, like I feel like we need to have Christy and Tisha just standing out in front of the school every day catching people like, hey, listen to what this means. Because that understanding lowers morale. It lowers parent buy-in. It, the kids know that they're the poor school. They do. Mark Twain kids and Copper kids know that they're the poor school. And that's a rough thing when they go to sporting events, when they go, to the CCOE, the Battle of the Books and the Science Fair. They know those things. And that image kind of darkens the doorstep of every teacher who applies to work in this district. And so while I do not necessarily have an idea of what restrictive versus non-restrictive funding is, I'm eager to learn. Because I want to be there to support the teachers, I want to be there to support the admin, and I want to spread the word in the community that they're not the bad guy, because that's really, I think, the image and the misconception right now. So that's my understanding of it, guys. 0, but also that's my opinion on it.
Thank you. Shorty, briefly discuss the difference in restricted versus unrestricted funding and your understanding of how your district is funded and what your budget priorities are.
I also have little knowledge on restricted and unrestricted budget. I have attended some board meetings and I am slowly learning. I do look forward, if I am elected, to attending conferences and other cool things that I hear Christy goes to. Also, I just think grants. It's free money. And the more we keep doing that, we've already gotten a handful of buses. I think Bill got us 4 or 5 buses in the time that he was at Mark Twain. We've gotten lighting, cameras, there's so many things. I think looking into getting grant money for some of our classified, if that's something we're able to do, that would be huge, because we are very underpaid. As being a classified employee for years at Mark Twain, that's why I had to go to barbering. I can't, as a single person, pay my bills just on being a classified person at Mark Twain, which I think is really sad. And then, yeah, just using the money towards bus drivers, because I know that's also really hard for us to get. And maybe even looking for grant money to help us get the word out and use social media a little bit better. QRC codes, just staying up with things to catch people's eye and get them in these jobs that we can't seem to fill.
Thank you, Shorty. Brad, briefly discuss the difference in restricted versus unrestricted funding and your understanding of how your district is funded and what your budget priorities would be.
So from what I understand, restricted funding is based on attendance and compliance. So I say that I'm all for attendance. I gotta drag my son out of bed every morning and I get those kids to school, so I'm all for that. The reason, I don't know why so many people have left public schools. I mean, I have some ideas why, but we need to work on somehow getting those numbers up, making schools safe. What I see, I don't have an understanding of unrestricted funding. Unrestricted funding to me is, you get unrestricted funds when you buy a motorcycle when your wife's out of town. She doesn't know, so it's unrestricted, no rules. But I don't know where that comes from, definitely. I don't have enough knowledge with that. But I know there are ways that locally we could raise money for the schools. I don't know if that's considered unrestricted funding, but I know, Copperopolis Elementary, they do a steak and shrimp where they raised over $40,000. We need to have more of those. They do like one of those. Like, why are we so reliant? Why do we have to be so, I guess, bribed to, you want money, do this, and do that. I think that it's great and the state should give us money, but I feel like they kind of dangle a carrot in front of us. So I think we should put on more community events to raise more money. And I think as far as priorities, I think safety should be our priority. California public schools are ranked 49th out of 50 on school safety. It depends on which study you look, but I've seen anywhere from 47th to 50 on the worst in safety. I guess New Mexico's worse than us. And we used to be 50, but we moved up. And then California public schools were ranked 40th overall. I've seen anywhere from 37th to 48th as far as educational standards. We spend, like I said, $24,000 per child. The national average is about 18 per child. But we have almost the worst test scores in all areas. Florida spends about half of what we spend, and they're ranked 5 in overall education scores. So I think it's not that we need more money. I believe that we need to figure out how to allocate the funds better. And I'm not 100% sure how to do that. Like I said, I can't fix the engine until I pop the hood. So if you guys let me in there, I'll try to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we with Cora now?
No.
Yeah,
No,
we're with
let's start
Cora.
Christy again.
This is an easy question, Cora. What should your district be doing to ensure the physical and emotional safety of both students and staff?
Okay, I need to write that one down. Okay. Safety really is non-negotiable. I mean, every question that you've asked us tonight, someone has brought up the word safety, whether it be physical safety or whether it be social and emotional. Those are all things that we have to consider. When you're a teacher, there's this kind of like cheesy thing that we say that you have to Maslow before you can bloom. And that means that you have to meet your basic needs using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you have not slept, if you have not eaten, if you do not feel like you're in a safe environment, you can't access what we call Bloom's taxonomy. I'm getting kind of out in the weeds now. But you can't educate a child if they're not ready to learn. And I think Tisha had brought up the fact that a lot of our kids are not coming from safe, warm, well-fed, well-cared-for homes. And that's something that teachers over the course of their careers really do end up becoming more social workers and therapists and, even in horrible instances, officers of the law where we're reporting things and trying to figure things out. And so teachers don't want to work in an environment that's not safe, and students don't want to learn in an environment that's not safe. I think one of the biggest things we can do is be responsive, not over-responsive, which tends to be the culture we live in. We need to have a secure facility, improved communication, and that needs to be a quality over quantity thing. When I was sitting here tonight, I think I got 4 emails asking me to reference a link that was not included. I can tell you by the time I get that 5th email with the link, I'm probably not gonna click it because I'm kind of over it at this point in the evening. And that's a big problem that we see in this district, is the communication is not on point the first go round, and that creates doubt. And when people are in doubt and they don't feel safe, that impacts their ability to trust us with their children, which impacts our enrollment and our ADA. We need to do more for mental health support, whether that includes collaborating with local law enforcement, the community, getting more feedback from the parents. Like I said, man, those parents, they run wild on social media, and that misinformation is a serious disservice to the teachers, to the admin, to the other students. I won't dive too deep into it, but my daughter came home this week and told me a pretty wild story. And I haven't heard anything from the school. And I am concerned about her safety. And so, as a board member and a parent, I really want to look into more grants. I had already presented something to the superintendent and the board. I had attended a training where they come in and assess your facility and can get you things like cameras, maybe even a school resource officer. The staff in our office, they're the first point of contact. You open up that door and you're in. And that's something that unfortunately we have to think about. So like I said, security for me is non-negotiable. If I do nothing else on this school board, I hope to leave it a more secure place than I left it as a teacher.
Shorty, what should your district be doing to ensure the physical and emotional safety of both students and staff?
Number one, my biggest concern is the office. I liked how one of the other candidates was talking about Bret Hart and how they have it just so secure now. You walk into a gate and then you're kind of in a cage almost. And you can't get into campus, but you can't also leave. And then you're just talking to the attendance lady. And I like that. And Michelson, I hear, has their office door has a buzzer on it, so you can't even just walk in. They have to allow you in, which I really like. Our office, I mean, I know I worked there for years and I'm known, but also you should maybe ask me why I'm there if I don't work there. I'm glad I'm welcome, but I think it should be a little more secure. IDing people, families that maybe another parent can't see a child. Are we really aware that this person should not be on campus, this person should not be picking up a child? I went to a Christmas thing last year and parents were allowed in the gym, which is at the back of the campus if you're not familiar with Mark Twain. And there was no check-in, there was no anything, anybody could just come in, nobody's watching who's coming in. And then it was kind of just like, hey, let your teacher know if you're gonna take your child with you today, and that was very concerning. So I think kind of just rallying all those things and making sure that we're checking what we're doing and really thinking like, is this the best strategy, and is this really keeping our kids safe? I know we have a new bullying policy that we're trying to get approved, and we got grant money for that, so that's really awesome. I was really bummed to not see any other parents besides myself and my partner there. I think it was open to Mark Twain and Copper. And then training paras, there's for any fights and stuff on campus. And being a para, even if you're not gonna physically separate the children, just being a presence and walking up instead of, hey office, something's going on out here, send somebody, and then standing 20 feet away is just not okay. Would you do that to your kids at home, or do you separate them, you know? So I think just training and talking to people, it comes down to communication, like I think is mentioned a lot up here. So I think just communication and really looking at things and our decisions that we make. Because again, that is why attendance is down, and when you have children there and we're trusting that you're taking care of, you know, my daughter or son when they're there, that's huge. So I think just being a little more careful of the decisions we're making.
Thank you. Brad, what should your district be doing to ensure the physical and emotional safety of both students and staff?
You know, I feel that they do a fairly good job, but I think they're just, it comes down to what I've been talking about, allocation of funds. So I think there's only one officer, I believe it's Scott, that has to go to all of the schools. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's just one, or is it not? Bret Hart, okay. So there's not enough, we should have campus officers, I believe. We should have people who are on. When I went to school, that kept the whole school in check, and I think there should be more of that. We should be allocating funds to that, and some of the measures that are passing in the city will hopefully help that as well. I think we need to address restrictive laws. There's laws that say that a teacher can't defend himself unless a child is like causing severe bodily harm, which is absolutely ridiculous. We need to enforce the rules. I say if a child severely harms another child, parents need to be held accountable. That's absolutely ridiculous. I heard a story recently, and I'm not going to say any names or what school district, but a girl was hurt so bad that there could have been brain damage. And I heard she's okay now, but that is absolutely ridiculous that that goes on. I think cameras are a good idea, and obviously there's restricted areas where we can't put cameras. But these kids need to be told what is right and wrong. And I think that's what's wrong, is we've kind of blurred the lines of what is right and wrong, and what is good and evil. I mean, you can't encourage bad behavior. So I think just being strict with these kids, you know, I'm getting in trouble for saying this, but I spanked my child as a young kid, and it helped. I had to spank him maybe 2 times in his life, and he listens. I don't believe in that with our children in the school. Obviously, you can't do that, but discipline. You have to have disciplinary action that's strict and that's just and that doesn't compromise. That way, that'll increase the safety on the school. As far as the infrastructure of it, I think the fences are great ideas. I remember as kids, I hated that because we were next to a park and we'd go play on the park, but it keeps people out, especially nowadays. We need to keep our schools safe because there are people out there who will try to harm children. And I think one thing with the social, the the mental health too. I think we need to keep politics out of school. When I grew up as a kid, I didn't care or know who my teacher was going to vote for. And I've heard from both of my children and a couple other people that teachers talk about that. That shouldn't be brought up in school. You know, children should grow up to have a non-biased opinion. And I think that creates pressure on children that's unnecessary at 12 years old. They shouldn't be thinking about those things. They should be thinking about going to volleyball practice or soccer practice. They should be thinking about playing with their friends and finishing their math quiz, and not subject to these ideologies that 12-year-olds shouldn't be subject to. And I think that's the cause of some of the mental problems.
Thank you, Brad. Christy, what should your district be doing to ensure the physical and emotional safety of both students and staff?
So I agree that safety comes in two forms, physical and mental safety. So recently our district adopted new social emotional learning curriculum, and it is your basic watered down social emotional learning. I know it's a really big buzz topic. I'm a mother, so I am hypersensitive to, you know, things that are put in my children's mind too, but this goes back to what I think we've lost so much of during COVID, which is, you know, those kindergartners not being with their peers to say, you don't hit, you don't slap, you share, you this, you that. So this version of the curriculum is really, I was pretty impressed with what we were shown at our recent board meeting. And like I mentioned, I am a mother of 3. And at one point I sent all 3 off to school every day while trying really, really hard to not let that negativity impact your brain of what's going on at schools, school shootings, drug use fights. It's not just the physical harm, it's the mental stuff that, you know, my girls don't use a certain bathroom because there's vaping going on. So I completely understand that these are the most precious beings in people's lives. So I think taking a comprehensive approach to continue working with law enforcement, mental health professionals, we have a counselor on campus and a wellness center, and we need to work with our educators as well through professional collaboration days to give them the tools to help a child who might have a social emotional issue. We've recently invested in more cameras and vape sensors. That has been a huge issue on one of our particular campuses. We should continue investing in other preventative measures such as anti-bullying programs, mental health support, creating an environment where a student feels safe and safe to speak out and safe to report concerns. I will say as far as the infrastructure piece of it, copper is nearly impossible to get onto that county. I can never find a gate that's open when I'm going. But Mark Twain, a little more precarious, like Shorty had said, is that you just walk right on into the office. I think those are things that we need to really take a look at to keep our kids sort of confined, you know, in a safe area where they, you know, feel physically safe, and work on other preventative measures for their mental safety as well.
Thank you.
Starting with Shorty. How familiar are you with IEP, special education process, and how can the board guarantee that all IEPs are followed by administration and staff?
So I am pretty familiar with IEPs. I've raised a couple kids who had IEPs. My brother was also, or is also ADHD, and we currently have kids with IEPs. There's a lot of laws and regulations that go into it. I think just maintaining a consistent list that we continue to look at and add to and take away if kids are leaving or coming, to make sure that they are getting the hours. So on IEPs, you have a disability and then you get an allotted amount of hours that that child needs, depending on their disability. So if it's a learning disability or ADHD, maybe they need to take a test in a separate room or get extra study time, or they get a copy of the teacher's notes. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's very easy to get confused or when you have so many kids on campus, which we do. We have all the Copper kids from Copper up at our main campus at Mark Twain. So our teachers, like Cora was, are very overworked and have a lot to do. So I think having maybe a team of people who are looking at these hours and making sure we have enough paras to get these kids the hours that they need, and probably checking even daily, and then at the end of the week making sure that everybody's getting their hours. It's a lot of work.
Thank you, Shorty. Brad, how familiar are you with the IEP special education process, and how can the board guarantee that all IEPs are followed by administration and staff?
So I'll be honest, this is a very hard question for me. I am not familiar with that, but I do recall when I was in 6th grade, we had a professional come to our school where I was at, because there was a few kids with disabilities there, and back then it was very, I guess, they didn't know how to address it, and some kids were mean to this kid. And I remember walking through the hallway, and he had fallen over in his wheelchair, and he was saying help, and everybody was walking by him. And I almost got my first fight then, because I pushed the kids and I told them all to get out of the way, and I helped them up. And I remember that really stuck with me, and that kid was with us all through high school. His name was Steven. I don't remember his last name, but we taught him how to sing songs. He was like our friend, and we took him in, and we really just loved that kid. But they had a professional come in, and they explained it, and it went from being a school, this was in middle school, to everybody not knowing. Some kids were mean, some kids, doing things that were awful, to like really learning from a professional and being able to understand what this child is going through, how to address them, how to treat them, and that kid had a great experience. And so that's all I can really say about that. I'm not educated in that field, but I'll study and do what I have to if I'm awarded this position and to fight for those children as well.
Thank you. Christy, how familiar are you with IEP special education process, and how can the board guarantee that all IEPs are followed by administration and staff?
So I'm somewhat familiar. I can say that I probably would never guarantee that admin and staff would follow. It is absolutely a goal that 100% of services are followed. Does that fall short? Absolutely, it does, and it happens more often than we'd like to think. All students deserve access to the resources that they need to succeed. I believe that in September, our board increased a 5.5-hour special education paraprofessional position that we were advertising that we had 0 applicants for. We increased that to a 6.5-hour benefited position. So I know that doesn't seem like a lot. 1 hour is what we think, but the benefited position will attract more candidates for that. According to teacherplus.org, a publication in January of 2023, research showed that almost 50% of special education teachers have left the field within the first 5 years. When I read that, I was actually pretty taken aback, because I thought, well, why? Like, why? And so then, of course, I had to read further, and it said that they did not feel as if they were supported through professional development and mentoring. So I think something like that, I had never thought of that, because I'm not well versed in special education. You're going to get the excellent answer in about 35 seconds.
I'm so excited right now.
I know. So, but I will say that our board is committed, and even that 1-hour position, we were really excited that we could budget for something like that. It was, I'm probably gonna mess the number up, so I won't say it, but it was quite a few $1,000 increase for us in facing budget constraints. It was something that we knew that we had to do. We're legally obligated to offer what's called FAPE. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Cora, how familiar are you with the IEP special education process, and how can the board guarantee that all IEPs are followed by administration and staff?
Okay, so I joke. That's what I do when I'm nervous. Maybe you noticed. I am familiar, but you know what? I'm also not, because it is an evolving thing every day. things change, definitions change, interpretations change, funding models change. Christy, you did an excellent job, as you have done as a board member, because I really do feel like the board has tried their hardest to meet the needs of the students. It is a disproportionate number of IEPs in this district. I mean, it is wild. I have worked 10 years in an NPS, which is called a non-public school, and the rules are quite different. I've only worked in public education for right around 3 years now, but I was a teacher who left. I left Mark Twain because there was no professional development. I had a phenomenal mentor, had I ever been able to access her, but her caseload was so far beyond the state maximum that she was never available to me. There was no curriculum. We had to make our curriculum every day, which means I didn't have time to teach my students because I was making verb cards to meet their IEP goals. We had a really junky relationship with county, and that had to do with admin and teacher attitudes and things like that. It's an incredibly broken system. So for the question to be, how can the board ensure that IEPs are upheld, they genuinely can't. We do not have the resources, we do not have the funding. So something very creative has to be done. And this board does try. They really do try. And these teachers, God bless them, they are making it work. But it is a detriment to other students. It is a detriment to funding. It is a detriment to campus safety. It is like we crammed 1,000 people into a clown car. And there's just no safe way out of it. It's one of the biggest reasons that I want to be on this board. I think where we start is by asking the parents of the students with special needs. I don't think that they have a voice on this board. I don't think they have a voice necessarily that they feel in this school. It's very isolating, it's very lonely. And we ask the students. We have some very savvy 7th and 8th graders that would like to have their opinions shared. Inclusion is an action. We have to choose to include. Put your sign down, I'm gonna keep going. We have to choose to include. And unfortunately with Mark Twain's staffing, I will tell you this, with Mark Twain's staffing, we in an IEP have SAI minutes and we have mainstreaming minutes. And a lot of times in Mark Twain, because of staffing ratios, we're not able to push students into their mainstream classes, which is a huge legal issue. And a lot of times with McNerlin and Miro, you know, I would go to them and I would be like, oh my God, what about this? What are you gonna do? Blah, blah, blah. And they'd say, this is the first time we've ever heard this. It's just where that communication piece stops again. The board who's making these decisions and allocating this money and going out for these grants, they don't necessarily know how dire it is all the time. So I'd love to get to a place where we could uphold them. But right now there is no answer to this question. I'll tell you guys, there is no answer. So there you go.
Thank you.
We're almost done. Home stretch.
You want me to talk about special ed more? Do we have time?
Maybe in your closing statement. Last question, we'll start with Brad. As a board member, how would you encourage collaboration and partnership between your district, city, and county administration, local businesses, community organizations, and parent groups to foster a shared vision of success for all students in our communities?
So what I think needs to happen is information. I think there needs to be, if the information, the laws, the regulations, all that's being passed in the school board, I understand there is a lot of things that are confidential that we can't share, but most of the stuff that's going on is public information and nobody knows about it. So I've been to a board meeting, I've been to one here, a couple at other places, and I go to some of the HOA meetings, and what I found at most of all these meetings is, and no offense to anybody, you guys are great, but you guys are great, but the meetings are very boring, they're dry, and they're very uninviting. So I'm sorry to say that. And I don't feel like the people have enough time to speak their mind. And so what I would try to do within the laws, and I would have to check the legality of it. I know there are rules of how many people that you can actually have before you have to call an official board meeting. But if we got other organizations involved, to have town halls, to have meetings that actually incentivize people to show up, whether it's a raffle or something, and then we allocate, an hour or two talk about these issues and address and give people more than 3 minutes and cut them off. I know it has to be organized because people will just talk over each other, but we have to be more involved with the community. Sometimes my wife hates going out with me because I just talk to everybody. She calls me a social butterfly, and I was nervous up here, but now I'm ready to talk all night. But I'll talk to everybody in the community. I love people most of the time. But I think getting that information out there to make that connection between the community, the schools, the organizations, because I think everybody here, wants the same thing, regardless of politics, beliefs, religions, whatever. We want to feel safe. We want to feel like we have a place that we can call home. I love this place. My wife was raised here and I was not. But I fell in love with this place as a child. My uncle lived up here. I came up here every week and every chance I possibly could. And I always loved Calaveras County, and I told myself when I was able to, I was going to try to move up here. And I had that opportunity, and I love it. And I want to ensure that safety and integrity of this community. And I think that starts with the minds of our children. So getting the people involved to actually stand up and show up to these meetings. So we can have other meetings. Maybe they're not put on by us, they're put on by other organizations where we say, hey, this is what's going to happen next. We need all 20 of you guys to show up. We need more than, and I think you're going to have to get a bigger room in there, but we can get a lot of people to show up and show out and make a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Same question to Christy. As a board member, how would you encourage collaboration and partnership between your district, city and county administration, local businesses, community organizations, and parent groups to foster a shared vision of success for all students in our community?
So I am obviously a huge advocate of open communication, parents and community members. I think a piece of it is just being visible. Whether that be on your campuses or in the community, and your superintendent too, being visible at community events. It's unrealistic to believe that a board member can do everything all the time and go everywhere all the time and be on every campus all the time. It's just not possible, but we have 1 of 5 jobs, and one of those jobs is to employ a superintendent, and that is a piece of what they are to do. They're the CEO of the district. But I believe I receive phone calls often from parents, and although it's would be inappropriate for me to help with certain things, I direct them the path that will take them to where they can solve their problem, or phone calls from people who don't even have kids in our school. I've sat on the phone for an hour or two explaining restricted funds, IEP minutes, because I think that kind of education is knowledge, and it helps them feel really included into the school environment. And that's what's really important to me, is to help people navigate that system. As far as community, as in, city council, it would be important for us to, be involved in something like that. I would really like to see more of a collaboration with our feeder high school. We feed into this school, we probably feed more than, up the hill, and it seems like there is a disconnect, there. So that would be something that would be really important to work on. But I think that really what it comes down to is being open to communicate, going to community events, being seen. My absolute favorite thing to do, which nobody really ever sees me, is to go have lunch with the kids. I just sit back, I look pretty creepy, I'm sure. I sit in the corner, but it's so fun because that's their time that they get to actually talk and laugh and not scream, don't scream, but have a really good time. So, I think it's important for board members to do that. Ridden the bus, that wasn't my favorite, that was not my favorite, but things like that give you a perspective of your school environment, and you can pass that along to the community. I mean, I had a 10-minute conversation about the bus route and what are bus drivers with a grandma who was concerned. So I think that all of that knowledge somehow circles back in a way that when you're accessible to somebody can really help them in maybe the situation that they're in.
Thank you, Christy. Cora, as a board member, how would you encourage collaboration and partnerships between your district, city and county administration, local businesses, community organizations, and parent groups to foster a shared vision of success for all students in our communities?
Shared vision of success. Okay. This is a really big question, right? Because, you know, we're a small town and we all kind of pride ourselves on knowing everyone. And, you know, when he said his wife grew up here, my first instinct was to go, what's your name? Where she live? What's she graduate? You know, we like to know one another. And so what we have to do is repair some of the damage that's been done over like the last decade, where parents haven't felt included, they have not felt welcome. And your answer was kind of in the question. You have to encourage collaboration. You have to encourage partnership. Our business community is so amazing. Anytime anyone says, we're doing a fundraiser, we need this, they're there with a basket. I mean, the business community really is part of the reason that Mark Twain and Copper are so successful in their fundraising campaigns. My students don't attend Copper, but I know that steak and shrimp is largely supported by the grocery store down there, and that's huge. And so we do have really great partners, but I think that going back to that transparency, sometimes we ask and ask and ask, but we don't give. And so I don't know that we always lay it all out there. If you go to board meetings, you know we kind of have some problems. Christy had mentioned the dashboard. The first time I saw the dashboard, I was like, do you guys know about this? And everyone was like, yeah, we know about this, we come to the meetings. But the community at large doesn't know about that. And so sometimes I think if we were more honest with what our struggles are, and that came from the mouths of the admin and the mouths of the board, then the community might be more open and accepting of some of those struggles as opposed to judging. But we have a wonderful city council. Our county office of ed is so great. Our parents are so great. Boosters on our campus, on Mark Twain's campus, had almost died out, and there was this new group of parents who came in and they turned it all around. And what that did for staff morale on the Mark Twain campus was huge. I think Copper's always had a pretty solid group, but I think the kind of mentality at this point is that it's too broken for me to fix it. And if too many people have that attitude, it's never gonna get fixed. And so coming together the way that I feel like everyone's starting to do, and rally around a new superintendent, and rally around these new great junior high teachers, it's really starting to encourage that collaboration and partnership. So I think the only thing that we can do as parents, as community members, is get involved. Sit on hiring panels. Find Christy at the Wild West Fest and tell her what you thought of whatever, which she'll just love to hear. You know, find Officer McNerlin and tell him how great it was to see him on campus. As a parent, as a teacher, one of my favorite things was seeing those board members on campus because I knew they were trying. And that was the first step. They were there, they were present. That's it.
Thank you, Cora. Shorty, as a board member, how would you encourage collaboration and partnerships between your district, city and county administration, local businesses, community organizations, and parent groups to foster a shared vision of success for all students in our communities?
I definitely think we're on the right track right now with Louise heading us up. I think she just has a lot of great ideas and is the leader to lead us towards doing great things and making changes. I do agree with Christy that we should partner up with Bret Hart more. Having kids be kind of mentors to other kids is huge, and it's fun. And they have a lot of great things over here, like FFA or any of their electives that they have. Any kid would love to come and be a part of it and just see what they have to look forward to. I definitely believe that the small businesses are huge. I think maybe some of the big businesses, we don't ask enough, and we should. When I was athletic director some years back, I definitely asked anybody and everybody for money and help and everything. And I think that really opened my eyes and saw that we don't ask maybe the Larrys for rocks and write it off or something and help us do this little project on our campus, or any other businesses that have access to things that we might need. I feel like Copper is kind of the golden child, and their campus always looks nice and they always raise so much money. So maybe going down there and seeing what are you guys doing and how are you doing it, because Mark Twain needs a lot of that up here. And just, I think, again, it all comes down to communication. So just talking to people, asking, and not being afraid to say what our struggles are, so we can get help, because nobody can help you if they don't know what your struggle is.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're ready for our closing statements, and they're 1 minute. So, let me see, where are we starting with? Christy? Yeah, Christy, your closing statement, please.
So I am fully invested in the betterment of our community, especially in the areas that impact youth. It's what I find the most joy in. I take pride in my ability to thoroughly research critical issues that affect our kids. Over the past 4 years, I've maintained a 96% attendance rate at our board meetings. I ensure that I'm present and I'm engaged and I'm well prepared to make informed decisions on behalf of students and community. I believe that my experience on the board and the involvement in various roles that I have within community positions will help me continue to make a positive impact on our district. As stakeholders in our public schools, we all share a role in this success. I pledge to represent you fairly and responsibly.
Thank you. Cora Brolio.
Okay, so IEPs. No, I'm just kidding. I am not asking you to vote for me. I am just asking you to vote. Vote for someone who's going to show up. Vote for someone who's going to show up every time. It's important. We've kind of slipped into this state of disrepair, and we need to hold ourselves accountable for that. Thank you to Christy and to Scott and to all these board members who've done it for so long. But now, it's time for us who have kids in the school, who are on the campus, who have these complaints, to step up and see what we can do about it. I cannot promise you that I will fix all the things. Because as Brad has mentioned several times, pop in the hood, it is the height of hubris to sit up here and think that you can armchair quarterback it and I'm gonna do this and we're gonna have money and it's gonna be so great. I know it's gonna be hard, but I just think as parents, it's time for us to get in there and try and be part of the solution. So, thank you.
Thank you. Shorty Megan Gutierrez.
I will do my best to try to bridge the communication between the district office and the main campus. I will definitely continue to volunteer. If elected, I will be present at the meetings. I think that's huge. There's no reason in putting all this effort into something if you're not going to show up. So I will be there. I would like... I do believe that as a parent and being on campus and working there for many years, I see a lot of different angles from things. So not just from a parent, but from a employee or a volunteer. So I do think that I bring a little bit to the table with that, just seeing different views and knowing kind of what works, what doesn't work. So yeah, I think these kids are our future. So if you invest in them, if you're invested in them, then vote for Shorty.
And Brad Lehman.
So I think they all had some really great answers, and I think their closing statements were amazing. So let's just vote for 6 candidates. 6 is better than none. I'm all out of notes. I had something prepared for the closing statement, but I think I'll speak from the heart. I will be 100% honest that I'm probably on paper the least qualified person to sit up here and do this. But I think what I do have is humility. I think humility is a necessity, or it's absolute necessity for any situation in life. If you go into any situation thinking you got it all figured out, you're wrong. I promise if I'm on this board, I will come in here with humility and with all my heart and all my vigor and all the studying. If there's a study that's 1,000 pages, I will stay up till 2 o'clock to read it. The biggest joy of my life ever was having children. It brought me out of so much darkness and so many things that I don't have time to explain right now. But I take pride in raising my children the best that I know how. And I promise I would do the same with your guys' children. Not that I'm going to raise them, but I would implement and try to create policies that benefit the children, and I would try to bridge the gap between the community and the board so you guys have a voice. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I don't know. How many, there are 5 candidates, how many positions?
5 candidates, 3 positions.
3 positions.
All right, stay tuned for the briefing and stuff.
Well, that's the end of candidates night. Thank you all for hanging in there with us. Thank you to all our candidates. Big shout out to Debbie Pawnee who put this all together for us. And she's kind of one of those unsung heroes in the city and the county. She's amazing. Thank you to all the candidates for sharing tonight, and thank you, Regis. No, I mean, any other thing, anything else?
No, I would like to make sure that we acknowledge ACPA, the Angels Camp Business Association, as well. They did a lot of work here this evening. Thank you to Brett Hart, the staff, and the kids. And yeah, this has been a long evening, but I think it's very important for us to get to know these folks, because these are important roles that they're all going to serve for this community. So it means a lot that you all care enough to stick it out. So thank you very much for being here. Go home to your families and drive safe.